Good afternoon, I'm Brent Holland, and welcome to today's show. This afternoon, get ready to rock, folks. You can't always get what you want. Further evidence why I compose instrumental music and not sing. This afternoon, we're getting ready to rock, folks. We're getting ready to rock because Sam Cutler's joining us. Sam Cutler was the tour manager. Are you ready for this, folks? For none other than the Rolling Stones and the Grateful Dead. Late 60s, early 70s. A few weeks after Woodstock, there was another concert. Because the Stones didn't play Woodstock, they wanted to do a free concert. That concert was called Altamont. Now, if you've never heard of Altamont, well, have we got a story for you this afternoon. Sam Cutler.
People on the stage who were right next to me were throwing themselves on the floor of the stage and yelling out, "He's got a gun." Very, very heavy. He was right in front of the stage, and you can see me in the film going up as it happened and telling Mick to get off stage. And Mick refused to leave the stage. He was very wise. He realised that, the Rolling Stones had to finish their set. There would have been even more chaos if we hadn't. And he was very brave. Hats off to Mick. It takes somebody of great courage to remain on the stage when someone's being killed right in front of you.
This afternoon, author Sam Cutler, tour manager of the Rolling Stones and the Grateful Dead. His book, You Can't Always Get What You Want, right now on Brent Holland. Folks, if you're just joining us this afternoon, we are speaking with Sam Cutler. Sam Cutler, of course, was the tour manager for none other than, are you ready for this? The Rolling Stones and the Grateful Dead. And he has met many a rock star. And we're going to start off with that right away. I want to jump into one, James Hendrix. Can you tell us about Jimi Hendrix, Sam?
Yeah, well, he used to hang out in the 60s in London, and at the end of the 60s, and when he first played there, he amazed all of the great guitar players in London. I used to see him around the scene a bit, late nights in different bars, and then when I came to America and was working for the Grateful Dead, we actually did a show with him. So that features in my book. He was a lovely guy. He was a kind of peace and love hippie, but originally, actually, he was in the 101st Airborne. He was a paratrooper, jumped out of airplanes. So he was in the military, wonderful guitar player, but very gentle guy, and one of the best, sadly missed.
Absolutely. Folks, the book is You Can't Always Get What You Want. The author, our guest today, Sam Cutler. And it's his life with the Rolling Stones, the Grateful Dead, and other wonderful reprobates. You can get
That's right. There's a few of them in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
They make life interesting.
Let's jump in right away. I want to get to Altamont.
Sure.
We talk about that right away, and there's a reason why I want to do that. Sam, as you know, this show is syndicated throughout the university system here in Canada, 80 stations.
Absolutely.
And
can I just tell you that, actually, people often ask me, what was your favorite gig of all time and all this stuff, when I was working with the Stones and the Dead. But actually my favourite gig of all time happened in Canada, and I'm not just saying this is actually true. We took a train from Toronto to...
That's right.
Are we going to talk about that in a bit, or shall I keep going and explain to people now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we took a train across Canada with the band, of course, who were a Canadian band, with the band, Bobby Dylan's people, the Hawks, original band. Anyway, the band, Janis Joplin, Elephant's Memory, Ian and Sylvia Tyson, Ian and Sylvia Tyson. Oh, who am I else with them? Buddy Guy, the Grateful Dead, the New Riders of Purple Sage. Took a Canadian Pacific private train across Canada, stopping at various sites and playing gigs. That was probably the highest, most fun time that I've ever had at a show, and I remember Canada fondly because of it.
That's very nice, although there were some problems in Toronto. Everybody
Yeah, there were. You can't have fun without problems somewhere or other. That's what tour managers deal with. 95% of the time it's fun, but 5% of the time there's a problem. And that's where everyone goes, where's the tour manager? And you deal with it one way or another. And that's what Altamont was. Altamont was a problem.
Let's go right into Altamont there.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could set it up for us, and it was a free concert, obviously, at Altamont. It was just after Woodstock, just to try and give some sort of reference. Yeah. I'm of the same vintage you are, actually, Sam.
Okay.
And,
ancient, in other words. Well, the kids today, you know, something that always amazes me, man, as I travel around. Kids today, you know, guys who are 18, 20, girls and boys, you know, between kind of like 18 and 25. They're very interested in the 60s. They want to know what happened, you know, what it was like, you know, what they missed, as it were. So, yeah, the Altamont thing was a concert that was originally envisaged by the Grateful Dead, Santana, Jefferson Airplane, and Crosby, Stills and Nash, who were like San Francisco bands, and they wanted to put on a free concert and play with the Rolling Stones. That was the kind of dream. They couldn't do it in San Francisco because the city people in San Francisco were terrified, you know, of hundreds of thousands of people wrecking Golden Gate Park. So it was then going to go to another site outside of San Francisco. That site fell through for a variety of reasons, and it eventually ended up in a site that was completely not right for a large outdoor rock and roll show, and it turned into a disaster. That's the shorthand version of Altamont.
Let's go into the details.
For 40 years, I've been listening to the Rolling Stones hired the Hells Angels as security. The Rolling Stones didn't hire the Hells Angels as security. The bands at Altamont, not the Rolling Stones, all of the bands at Altamont clubbed together and gave the Hells Angels $500 worth of beer. That's what happened. They weren't hired. You can't hire Hells Angels to do security, mate. Hells Angels ain't cops, I can assure you. And, you know, they ain't cops, believe me. So, you know, this is just one of the great kind of furphies that's, you know, come forward from the media. It was a media-driven stories initially, and it's just kind of entered folklore as being the thing that happened, but in fact it's not true.
Okay. What happened when the Hells...
They were there, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. I guess I want to get into the deaths and the violence and everything that surrounded that. It seems to be the exact opposite, almost, of what took place at Woodstock.
It was, and no one was more surprised than all the bands, believe me. We couldn't, you know, we just couldn't believe it. There were a lot of very violent people there, a lot of very bad drugs, a lot of alcohol. It was a completely other scene to Woodstock. Woodstock was a kind of homogenous, you know, scene. All the people that went there were into the thing, you know, as kind of hippies, I guess you could call them, for want of another word, you know. But the young people that were at it were kind of as one. Whereas the California scene was a very, very different scene. It was some people from San Francisco, but it wasn't actually in San Francisco. It was about 90 miles from San Francisco in high chaparral country, basically desert. Very cold, and as I say, very bad-tempered, with all kinds of, you know, country people, redneck people. It was just a mess. So very different scenes, and yeah, there was a lot of bad drugs, a lot of bad LSD at Altamont. The medical facilities were completely overrun with people that needed help and assistance. A lot of people got injured, and indeed one person died. The guy that died, again, which is never mentioned in the press, and the guy had a gun.
That's the guy fired two.
Yeah, he had a gun. He was like 20 feet in front of the stage, had a gun, fired 2 shots. Where, nobody knows. Mercifully, no one was hit, and he got stabbed, and he died.
You're listening to The Brent Holland Show. For more information on today's guests, as well as free podcasts and downloads, please go to the www.brenthollandshow.com website, www.brenthollandshow.com. com. Folks, we're speaking with Sam Cutler, the tour manager for the Rolling Stones and the Grateful Dead. His book, You Can't Always Get What You Want, readily available. Just go to the www.brenthollandshow.com website. As always, click on the book cover. We'll take you to chapters Indigo online. You can order it from the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, I should just say one other thing as well. It's available as an app on iPhones where I read the whole book.
Oh, really?
Which is quite something. Yeah. And so if you're a rich student with an iPhone, because I know plenty of people. I haven't actually got an iPhone myself, but I know plenty of people who do. If you've got an iPhone, you can just look up Sam Cutler or look up You Can't Always Get What You Want, and there it is as an app, and it costs $9.99, cheap and cheerful. And I'm reading the whole thing. In my deep baritone voice.
And that's probably the best way to get it, folks, without hesitation, is to have the actual author read it to you, and with all his articulations and everything and emphasis. It's a great book. I virtually read it last weekend from cover to cover to cover.
Nice, man. I'm pleased you liked it.
Oh, it just brought me right back to that era.
That's really nice to hear.
And I couldn't help but, Janis Joplin, God love her.
Yeah, poor old Janis.
Jeez, what a talent. Yeah. And I was wondering if you can discuss your meetings with her and your personal interactions with her a little bit.
Yeah, well, after Altamont, Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead very kindly let me stay in his house. I had nowhere to stay, no money or anything. He very kindly let me stay in his house, and the first day I was there, I went off for a stroll, beautiful, underneath the redwoods in Marin County, California, just paradise, And I went like 4 houses down the road, and I noticed this, a Porsche, it was, a Porsche car, done with the most fantastic psychedelic paint job on it. And I knew immediately it was Janis's, and I'd met Janis on the Rolling Stones tours and stuff, and she used to come backstage, and I went and knocked on the door, and lo and behold, Janis opened the door. There we were neighbours, 4 doors away from one another, and we became good friends. I used to go down and have a drink with Janis and, shoot the breeze. And she was a great lady. She was a truly great lady. The Grateful Dead loved her, and I can tell you, man, when she died, every single guy in the Grateful Dead cried, and that's a fact.
What's your fondest memory of Janis?
Well, really my fondest memory of Janis is that, Janis had kind of problems with men in a way. She always picked the most inappropriate men who would, have little scenes with her and then love her and leave her kind of thing. So I always wanted to be a friend of hers rather than be a lover or anything of hers, you know what I mean? And so we became good pals, and we used to sit there and get a bit drunk together and talk about life. She had a wonderful heart, and when she didn't have to be on stage, you know what I mean, and kind of be Janis Joplin, which is kind of like was a full-time job, if you know what I mean. She was a very human, very warm, very loving person, and great soul, great lady, and sadly missed.
Oh, absolutely. What an incredible talent. And she passed away, folks, within a month of Jimi Hendrix passing away.
I know, it was 2 losses, and I would say to the kids today, it's something I always tell kids today, when we were young, we didn't really know about drugs and alcohol, and people experimented with that stuff, and we paid a heavy price for learning, how to behave yourself and not die, because of your pleasures. So all I would say to kids today is the combination of drugs and alcohol is often a lethal combination. So have fun, but be careful and look after yourselves. Remember what I'm saying.
Be prudent. Folks, the book, You Can't Always Get What You Want. Our guest today, Sam Cutler, is the author, and you can actually go to iPhones and download it as an app, and Sam actually reads it to you in his own words. How great is that, folks? That's
man.
The best way to get it.
Well, the nice thing is you can do both, you know what I mean? It's like, it was a world first, actually. It was released as a book and as an iPhone app simultaneously. Because we just figured if people read the book, they'd love to hear the author reading it. And if they heard the author reading it, they'd love to read the book themselves. The book's got lots of pictures, and it's good, and so they're kind of like a husband and wife. They make a good pair, the book and the app. So we're hoping that people will enjoy both.
That's a great way to put it. And
I should just say something else as well, that I've got a Canadian publisher out of Toronto, and the reason for that is because they're only a small company, but the people at that company read my book and loved it, and they really wanted to do it, and I just figured I'd rather be with a small company, you know, that really loved the book and really were into it, rather than be with some, you know, international kind of monolithic company where I would just be one of 600 writers kind of thing. And I must say they've been really good to me, and yeah, I'm really pleased that I made that decision. And I shall be in Toronto soon. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm in Toronto in a few days' time, and I can't wait to be there and meeting up with all the people from the publishing company, and being on, I think I'm on the Canada's largest breakfast TV show and stuff like that, so it's all pretty exciting stuff.
That's wonderful. That's terrific. Yeah. Congratulations.
Well, I won't be going on a train across Canada and counting trees. I've never seen more trees in my life than I saw on the back of a train in Canada. Yeah, man, they went on forever.
I know.
You've got a lot of trees up there.
So we have to, you know, what can I tell you? We have a lot of dogs, too. They have to.
Yeah.
Yep, so there you go.
Right, a dog for every tree, a tree for every dog. I think the trees probably outnumber the dogs. I hope they do. You'll be overrun by dogs if you've got as many dogs as you've got trees.
Folks, we're speaking with Sam Cutler, and he's telling us all kinds of great stories from when he was tour manager with the Rolling Stones, the Grateful Dead, and he met all these wonderful, wonderful iconic rock stars. The book is called You Can't Always Get What You Want, readily available. It's an app for your iPhone where Sam actually reads the book right to you. You can just go to iTunes and search for Sam Cutler and download it. I think it's $9.99, did you say?
$9.99. I think that's the price.
Wow. What a great price for a great book.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't know what the price is in Chinese money, but you can probably get it in China as well because it's available worldwide, you know. But there you are. That's fun, isn't it? And, yeah, it tells some good stories, man, and it tries to lay some of the old kind of bogies about the 60s to rest. And, yeah, everybody's really liked it, which has been very gratifying as a writer, you know. I was just here I'm here in San Francisco now, and on Saturday just past, all the people from the Grateful Dead family threw a welcome back party for me, which was great. Ramblin' Jack Elliott was there, who I've known since I was 15. Accepting his Grammy. He's 78 years old. Amazing. So it was a very special time for me.
Jerry Garcia.
Bless him.
Can we tell a little bit about... Well, actually, you know what I want to do, Sam?
Yeah.
Altamont. You had written something that gave me goosebumps, and I'll tell you why in a second.
Right. Shoot.
Can you give us some of the rumors that were flying around about the acid?
Yeah, well, the acid at Altamont, one of the problems, you know, I didn't get to San Francisco until about 4 days before this concert was going to happen. So I didn't actually see Altamont, the site where the concert was going to happen, until the day before, on the Friday. The concert was on Saturday, December the 6th, 1969. And I was there on the Friday night, and there was already, you know, 100,000 odd people there, and bitterly cold, freezing weather. And people had pulled up all the fence posts, and old barns had been pulled down, and there were fires burning everywhere, you know, with people trying to keep warm. And it was like a scene out of Sodom and Gomorrah. It was just madness. And people were walking around with jars full of pills of acid, you know, yellow acid pills. A girl tried to give me some, and I was talking to her, and someone had given it to her to give away. And this was really, really bad acid, and there were literally hundreds of people that were overwhelmed, the medical facilities. And I think that had a lot to do with the vibe at Altamont, the problems. And I think that was part of a kind of deliberate thing that happened, by whom and how, I'm not sure, just to sabotage the whole event. Yeah.
Do you think there was FBI involvement in that? Well,
you know, at the time, the head of the American government, at the time of the legal department of the American government, was a wonderful man called Mr. Mitchell. If anybody remembers it, Nixon was the president, Mitchell was the attorney general, and he was a little bit to the right of Attila the Hun. They were very concerned about the situation with American youth. At Woodstock, you know, the young people at Woodstock have been contributing to the Black Panthers and the SDS, the Students for the Democratic Society, who morphed into the Weather People. And I think that there was a deliberate policy to sabotage large gatherings about, you know, and rock festivals. And of course, there was a program called COINTELPRO, which the FBI and the Central Intelligence Agency were involved with, which was designed to actually discredit the student left, the Black Panthers, and the whole business of large rock and roll gatherings. So I think you might well find, with a little bit more study, that Altamont actually fell between two stools, and there were some dark players, you know, putting their hands into the cookie jar.
You're listening to The Brent Holland Show. For more information on today's guests, as well as free podcasts and downloads, please go to the www.brenthollandshow.com website, www.brenthollandshow.com. You also mentioned in the book Mr. Sam Giancana.
Indeed.
And just let me read this. The people who John James had brought in to look after the Stones at Altamont, who had been singularly unsuccessful in doing anything but covering themselves, came from Sam Momo Giancana's mob in Chicago. These were the same boys, it later transpired, cooperating with the intelligence agencies to bump off Castro. That indeed, folks, is Operation Mongoose, and that's the Kennedy assassination. That's why I got goosebumps.
Yeah, well, man, you know, one of the things about contemporary history is that, you know, 40, 50 years after an event, people start to look at things with fresh eyes, you know, and with a clear focus. And I think that some of the seminal events of the 60s, and Altamont is definitely one of them,
absolutely,
haven't been studied properly as yet. I'm hoping and I think that they will now become the subject of academic inquiry, and that we'll have contemporary historians looking at these events and trying to get just beyond the newspaper headlines and start to analyze, you know, what's going on. You know, obviously the whole popular narrative of the Kennedy assassination, for example, just does not hold water. Absolutely. You know, I mean, everybody knows that it's, you know, it's preposterous. You know, the explanation of the lone, deranged communist government, you know, in the Texas Book Depository with an ancient rifle which you managed to get 3 shots off from, doesn't work. And there's other explanations, you know, for things like Altamont which, too, don't ring true. You know, the idea that the Rolling Stones, you know, hired the Hells Angels and the Hells Angels were the cause of all the problem just isn't so. And you've only got to look at the footage that exists, you know, the film footage that exists at Altamont to see that that's not so. So, you know, with the passage of time, people start to look at things, as I say, with fresh eyes, and hopefully this will be the subject of further inquiry, and some of the real mysteries will, you know, have their solutions offered to people.
Just a speculation, Sam, and then we'll move on from Altamont.
Yeah. You
had mentioned that the fellow who was finally killed carried a gun and actually got off 2 shots. Any idea who the target was? Just a speculation.
Well, all I can tell you is the people on the stage who were right next to me were throwing themselves on the floor of the stage and yelling out, "He's got a gun." So it was very heavy, very, very heavy. It was right in front of the stage, and it was an extraordinary thing. You know, you don't expect to play music and have people killed right in front of you. And I'm in the film. You can see me in the film going up as it happened and telling Mick, you know, to get off stage. And Mick refused to leave the stage. He was very wise. You know, he realised that, you know, the Rolling Stones had to finish their set. You know, there would have been even more chaos if we hadn't. And he was very brave. Really, I mean, hats off to Mick. It takes somebody of great courage to remain on the stage when someone's being killed right in front of you and continue, with the show. Yeah, they're unbelievable.
Absolutely. I don't know how you guys survived that show. I really don't. And that story, folks, is in the book. You can't always get what you want. Our guest today, Sam Cutler, the author. Just go to the www.brenthollandshow.com. Click on the book cover, as always. Takes you right to Chapters Indigo, or another way to get it, and I will put this link up on the website as well, folks. iPhones has an app for it where Sam actually reads you the book, and it's only $9.99. How great is that? All these amazing stories, and it really does take you back to the 60s. As a young man of the 60s, I think it was 7, 8, 9, 10 during the 60s,
right.
I thoroughly remember these iconic rock stars, and the Beatles as well, and the Stones, of course.
Sure. So, but we don't talk about the Beatles because our mum liked the Beatles, see? Your mum never liked the Rolling Stones, dirty lot, you know what I mean? Whereas the Beatles were all kind of fresh and wholesome.
That's funny, Sam. And that's so true, folks. That is so true.
Yeah, you know, I mean, England was like divided. You either like the Beatles or the Rolling Stones. Very few people like both.
That's right.
The Rolling Stones were the bad boys. Well, you know, maybe were you your mother's favourite son?
No, actually, no. But I liked both bands. I really
did. Well, you were ahead of your time.
Maybe
I did too, man. I mean, the Beatles were great guys. I mean, the one who was the hip guy in the Beatles in the 60s in England, actually, funnily enough, was Paul McCartney.
Oh.
McCartney used to come to gigs and everything and hang out when John Lennon was living, you know, in a big mansion down in Weybridge with his first wife, Cynthia, was just kind of paranoid and didn't want to go anywhere or be bothered by anybody. McCartney used to hang out all the time. And McCartney gave money to the kind of alternative bookshop in Deaker that was in London, you know, and helped support that and helped support quite a few, you know, kind of underground causes. He was a good guy in those days.
As a tour manager, because I'm sure there's kids out there that are considering going in to be tour managers, to work with IATSE. As a matter of fact, I was an IATSE guy in Montreal for a long time. Yeah. And what would you say to them?
I'd say do it, but you've got to develop certain skills, one of which is never lose your temper. Regardless of what happens, never lose your cool. That's number one. Regardless. Even when someone's being murdered in front of you at a rock and roll show, it's your job, you know. It's like the general, you know. If you're a general of an army, you can't freak out. You have to stay calm. Stay calm. You've got to develop the ability to stay calm in all situations, number one. Number two, you've got to develop the ability to answer the telephone at any time of the day or night, 24/7, 365 days a year, and be on the ball immediately. The second the phone rings, answer it as if you've never been asleep or in bed. Thirdly, you've got to develop the ability to get by with no sleep or very little sleep. You know, a couple of hours a night. I mean, I'm doing this book tour. I'm on 2 or 3 hours sleep a night now. And, I'm 67. So you've got to, you know how to deal with adversity. Sleep when you can, eat when you can. But if you don't get any sleep and you don't get any food, deal with that too. So you need to be pretty tough, you know. Old tour managers are few and far between, just like old musicians. The ones that survive the experience are pretty tough people. And you need to be self-disciplined. You know, you can't do, you know, you just can't be a tour manager doing drugs and drinking. You've got to be on the ball. Somebody's got to be responsible. Let everybody else do all the drinking and drug taking. You're taking care of business. So that's what I'd say. And then have fun.
Have fun, the rest of it. Sam, what's next for you? Would you go out on the road again?
Yeah, I'd love to go on the road again, yeah. We'll see what happens. No, I'm writer now. I've been writing for a few years. I've always wanted to be a writer. And I always wanted to, have a mad life until I was 55, 60, then settle down and write about it. So that's what I'm doing. I live in Australia. I actually live in a bus in Australia, travel around in a bus, and I've got all my, telecommunications in the bus, and I'm online in the bus, so I write a blog, and I have a wonderful life, I'm pleased to say.
That's wonderful, Sam. I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to come on the show today.
No, it's great, and it's lovely. It's really nice for me that it's being listened to by students, across Canada. I'm very fond of Canada, Canadian people, and I can't wait to get there in a few days' time.
Looking forward to it, my friend, and all the very best, and please do come back anytime.
Out of sight, man. Thanks very much. Lovely to talk to you, and peace and love, as they used to say in the 60s, and that's one thing that the world still needs to this day. Absolutely. Peace and love to all the students out there. Nice one.
Peace and love to you, my friend.
Okay, buddy. Goodbye.
Bye now.
Bye, buddy.
You're listening to The Brent Holland Show. For more information on today's guests, as well as free podcasts and downloads, please go to the www.brenthollandshow.com website, www.brenthollandshow.com. Living history, folks. Sam Cutler, tour manager for the Stones and the Dead. Late 60s, early 70s. Personal accounts, as he's just told us, of Joplin, Hendrix, the Stones, the Dead, etc., etc. Thanks for everybody that keeps sending me their emails. I do appreciate it, and I will respond. I'm Brent Holland. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. See you next time.